And it's on your YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm. All right. Now we are live. All right. Guys, welcome to podcast with Short Bus Actual. We got Keith Mosley. We got Eric down here. Dead Profit. And so today we're going to be talking about DMRs, the who, what, when, where, how, and all that goodness. So before we get started, do a little intro. So Keith, you want to, I guess we'll start with you. You want to do, I guess, a little intro of yourself?
Me or the gun?
You say, what?
You want me or the gun?
No, just like your little background.
All right. I only served a short time, one enlistment in the Marine Corps as an 0311. Did a little bit of DMR training while I was in there, as well as just the regular marksmanship training that you get for the Marine Corps. Also did shooting instructor course for the Marine Corps, which is just basically like it's a coach's course, is what it is. You're not like full force, like the weird safari-looking hat instructor. You're just an instructor for your unit, shooting instructor for your unit. So I did that. One Afghan deployment, nothing super kinetic there. It was actually quite an easy deployment. We got lucky on that front. We're unlucky depending on how you look at it, drill and jockey. And then we did a BSR Black Sea Rotational Force deployment. Was my second one over to, I was in Romania. We were training partner forces over there, teaching them how to do different tactics. And other than that, nothing super complex there. As far as my civilian side training, I'm kind of the curator of the little shooting group that we have going on here, doing our small unit tactics, shooting the close quarters that you see on LocsNLoad. Just now started getting the land down. We're in the works of getting out and doing some bushcraft stuff with the group guys down in South Florida as well. We're going to be staying multiple days out there, hiking out and doing different spots out in the wilderness down in the Palo National Forest, staying out there for a couple of days. And just kind of learning the craft out there. And doing a lot of that stuff before it was Grand Theft Cool. So, again, other than that, I'm just a simple civilian at this point. Enjoy getting to get out with the boys, training and doing the direct trip with them.
All right, bet. All right, Eric. A little background about you.
So
like,
kind of
background of your shooting history.
Oh, what?
Yeah, just a little background on like your shooting history, and all that. What got you into it?
I'm a firearms instructor. As far as my experience with running scope carbines and SPRs and stuff, I really learned a lot of knowledge from Keith that he's given us. I do plan on doing a couple competitions with this particular setup as we talk about them. But yeah, that's pretty much my background, really. I'm just a regular civilian. Never served, never did any kind of security work, nothing. Just average Joe.
Who built it, Eric? Who built both of y'all's guns?
Our Lord and Savior, Joe Biden.
Is that what we call him?
Nate Tyler's in here. What up, Nate?
Hey, what's up, bud?
Right.
Oh, you're wearing. Oh crap! I gotta wear the shirt now. Oh
yeah, no, I got it on.
Yeah, I saw Thomas set up when he was just out with me. We were just shooting you about an hour and a half ago.
All right, and also you can post the comments on the screen like that, so when they comment and stuff. Like, I'm finding out a whole bunch of stuff you can do on here, bro.
Yeah.
What up, Jalen? What's good? What's good, Nate? Yeah, I got to show off the shirt, man. Got to show off. But all right, so let's get into it. So I'm gonna go over a quick preview of my rifle. You guys will go over yours, and then what we're gonna talk about. I think like the three main things a DMR that makes a DMR accurate and what it is: the optic, the barrel, and the trigger. Right, and then after that, we'll kind of go on like other factors. Right. So I'm gonna go over my rifle real quick. I got a 16-inch Hansen Profile Ballistic Advantage barrel. The rail I got from Keith, so I honestly don't even know the name of the rail.
It's Midwest Industries.
Midwest rail with the YHM flash hider, so I can mount a YHM Turbo 2 suppressor or whatever type of suppressor they have. Got a UTG bipod. It sort of kind of works. It doesn't really work. I'm gonna get it replaced. Got a Magpul foregrip. I got rail panels for Magpul. Optic 3-18 HUD DMR for primary arms. The upper is just a mil spec upper, run in the mill. The lower itself is a Poverty Pony Anderson lower. So shout out Anderson. Magpul bad lever because it makes it keep mad, but actually beneficial. I like it. Got a Velocity Precision single stage trigger. Got damn, who made the bolt carrier? I forgot then. Oh yeah, E2 Armory gold and bolt carrier. I think it looks good with the color of the rifle. Ambi selector, Magpul pistol grip, and I forgot the stock. It's supposed to look like a soft mod stock, but it's like one of those knockoffs because I didn't want to pay full price because I'm cheap. And Strike Industries ambidextrous charging handle with the Feral Concept sling. So that's about it. 20 round mags. Oh yeah, invest in these. All right, that's mine. Keith.
All right.
Talk about your favorite girl.
So for whatever reason, it's showing my stuff backwards. This is not a left-handed gun, I swear, and it's actually kind of trippy a little bit trying to look at it. But kind of starting from the front. I'm running a Liberty Precision Machine Flash Hider. This is particularly one is to mount for it's the Q Plan B style of mount. So it's in order to mount the YHM Turbo K, which is actually on my 10.5 back there behind me. To mount to the gun. Barrel is absolutely the heart of the system. But the barrel that I went with here, it is a Roscoe Manufacturing purebred 16-inch barrel. These guys shoot extremely phenomenally. I do not think that I've had a group with match ammunition shot above 1 MOA out of this barrel. And generally it tends to, I can consistently hover around half to 3/4 minutes with this. And I use 75 grain 20 tap, which is like a expanding version of their 75 grain hollow point. It's got a camber on it and everything. And I guess this is keeping the bullet together if you're using it to shoot softer targets. Gas system on this guy, it is the barrel comes on sauce pack. So the gas system that's on this is actually Roscoe Manufacturing along with the tube as well. So it's just their stuff that comes with it. I did not keep the sauce pack bolts in this or a bolt carrier group in this, but I do have the bolt from the Roscoe Manufacturing bolt. But the carrier itself is an FN carrier, and it's got Roscoe's bolts in it, and then it's got FN guts in it as well. And I completely re-outfitted the internals. All the springs on this gun with Springco parts. So it's got a Springco extractor, spring, Springco ejector spring, and a lot of the other internal springs and everything like the same thing. They're going to be Springco, aside from the trigger that I've got in this. Handguard, it is a Combat Midwest Industries combat rail. Is their Gen 3, I think, version of this one that's got the little nipple that sticks into the barrel nut to slide it off. Not as big of an issue with SPR, but I know they're older handguards with like the carbines. You have an issue with sliding because the clamps into like a nerve underneath there. So I put that on there. That way, I just peace of mind wouldn't have to worry about it. Upper receiver and all the guts for the upper is a Noveski. So it's a Noveski upper, that's an upper receiver. And the lower receiver is actually the one from the very first AR that I actually ever purchased. It's a stag arm lower receiver. This particular lower actually, I want to say, has like 8 barrels on it at this point. Barrels that have been burned up. Shoot them, barrels wear out. And then all the internals on this guy have been updated with different internals. The only part that's stag still is the mag release and the takedown pins. Everything else has been updated with different parts over time. I actually broke a bolt catch at one point. Kind of sucks, but kind of what it is. Use your stuff. Stuff's going to wear out and break. And then the springs and everything, and that's been updated to Springco for the lower two. Trigger, like Thomas said before, is another really important portion of your DMR. So I went with a Geissele SDE, Super Dynamic Enhanced. This is a 2-stage flat-face trigger. I do not like flat-face triggers in carbines, like running gunning and stuff like that, or close range, like a 10.5, 11.5, so on and so forth. I don't like flat-face triggers, but for SPRs, I like them. Reason being, let's see if I can kind of get this on there. I like to rest my finger towards the bottom of that trigger, keeping it further away from the hinge point. And the bottom trigger, it gives it a perceived lighter feel. And also working with using it as a focal point, the way you get the focal point of leather, the easier the perceived pull that trigger is going to be. And then safety, it's not an ambidextrous safety like that. That's all from stack part, I guess. But I don't like ambidextrous safeties. But on SPR, for a lot of guys, that's something that you have to change out because you're going to want to run your thumb on the side of the receiver instead of wrapping it around whenever you're shooting precision. We can get into whys for that later on. But
yeah, we can do that near the end. Yeah.
And then buffer system. So the buffer tube and the internals are BCM. So it's BCM buffer tube, the BCM H2 buffer. And then I have a Spring Coat Blue spring in the buffer as well. The reason I like going with Spring Coat is they tend to have a lot longer of a service life than your standard parts. So take a buffer, for instance, a standard AR buffer spring has a life cycle of 50 to 100,000 cycles. So that's not just you firing the gun, but also you take the racks and that compression of that spring, you get roughly 50 to 100,000 cycles out of it. You might get more, you might get less. But that's like a safe average for it. Spring coats, they say you get north of 1 million cycles out of them. Significantly better. They use better materials for their springs for that. Optic, I'll go ahead and take this side off. Easier to see because it's Optic is the old school Leupold Mark IV. This does not have a lot of bells and whistles. It's an extremely simple scope. It's second focal plane. It doesn't have a lit reticle, doesn't have zero stop, anything like that in it, but they are incredibly rugged and durable. This scope has been through quite a lot of stuff and just kept rapid ticking. But it's MOA scope. It's the only one that the Mark IV ERT doesn't fit in with MOA turrets and an MOA reticle. It's 32X1 Christmas tree style reticle, and they have a quarter or half MOA, I can't remember off the top of my head, increments of wind holes and dots off the side for it. Of course, bubble level, because you need to keep these level when you're shooting them. Reason being, bullets don't move in a straight line like a laser beam. We can get on the details later. Yeah, I just want a quick rundown. All right, yep, and then mounts just a LaRue LT104 mount.
Yeah, because I want to get Eric's in here, and then we can. Yeah. Okay. Eric, your turn.
All right. So, good old Grantham style, starting from tip to butt.
God, your camera sucks.
Yeah, whatever. Running the YHM T2 suppressor for my SPR, and I have the YHM flash hider for that. That is connected to a Roscoe 18-inch purebred barrel, 27 twist. Regular gas block, nothing fancy there. Regular rifle length gas tube. I am running just the Amazon special bipod. My rail is a YHM competition rail that I got from Keith. So shout out to you for that.
all of us got rails from Keith.
That's hard.
Hey, look, we need it. You know, that's why it's dope to have good friends.
Solid rail.
Is Aero Precision. It's the M4E1. I purchased this from my original 12.5 that I built like 2 years ago. When I was first getting into long range, and I said, "All right, cool. I'll just use something that I have lying around." As far as lower parts, standard safety, standard bolt catch, standard magazine release, nothing fancy there. My trigger is a Geisley FSA. Really nice trigger. I really do like it. My grip is a BCM Mod 1, if I'm not mistaken. It's one of the BCM grips, basically. Buffer tube, just a standard old regular buffer tube, regular castle nut, regular end plate. H2 buffer inside, just a regular LBE one. And I'm running a Strike Industries flat wire spring in my buffer tube. And then this is a B5 system, kind of like how Thomas was saying, he went the cheaper route. I went ahead and just got this because I did find it on sale when I was building this out. And the charging handle is a Strike Industries latchless. I really like this particular charging handle because I don't have to worry about, unlike Keith, breaking latches on charging handles. We order something, so that's always nice to know. And then my bolt carrier group is from AIM Surplus. It's their, I don't think they have this particular one in stock, but it's the titanium nitride one with the melanated bolt base. So, and then lastly, the optic. Me and Thomas are actually running the same optic. Primary arms, 3 to 18 by 50 millimeter. I have that mounted inside of a Amazon special scope mount, which has actually been producing some very, very good and consistent results. In fact, when I finally had this entire gun set up, Keith was in decision on what barrel he should go with as far as to rebarrel his DMR demonstrating now. And because of the performance that we were seeing from this setup here, that's why he ended up going up with that barrel. And then lastly, I got a bubble level up here because, like Keith was saying before, it helps as far as with your accuracy and making sure that your rifle isn't canted. But yeah, that's pretty much how my whole setup is, and I love it.
Bet. All right, so that is the rundown on our setups. And so, who's hitting me up? All right, answer that later. All right, so what I want to get on was things that make an SPR or DMR DMR. And one of those things is the optic. You know, you will have a different optic versus a carbine. This is not a red dot at all, not even close. And so I guess I want to get your thoughts. I guess we start with Keith last time. Let's start with Eric. Eric, what is your thoughts on a DMR SPR optic and why does it make it such?
Well, as far as the difference between SPR and a DMR, both of those platforms are designed to do specific things. So,
okay, my bad. I don't mean to cut you off. Let's before we get off, let's talk. That was a good point that you made. The difference between a DMR and SPR. Let's talk about that. What is the difference between a DMR and SPR?
At least to my knowledge, right? The difference between a DMR and an SPR. A DMR, which stands for a designated marksman's rifle, right? Is I would consider about a 16-inch barrel that has I would say a 2 to 10 optic or something of that nature on it. But you're able to engage targets about 600 meters. An SPR or a special purpose rifle is built specifically for long-range engagements. So, and kind of going back to this setup right here, I set this up specifically as an SPR because I modeled the military's Mark 12 SPR. That's why I put an 18-inch barrel to the top of the running 16-inch barrel. Maximize as far as that long range lethality, 77 grain projectile, because based off of all the specs from the Mark 12 SPR, that was, if I'm not mistaken, developed by Knight's Armament. They use specifically Black Hills 77 grain OTM projectile, and so because of the twist sprayed and everything, as far as when you put all the systems together, out from 0 to 600, it's pretty much you're deadly with it. Which was the goal as far as what I wanted to set this entire SPR setup up. But let's transition to Keith because I know he would know a lot more because he's been around actually ran those types of weapons. So,
All right. I'm gonna let Keith go because I know Keith is gonna give a book, so I'm gonna give my quick definition. All right, to me, a DMR is an accurate rifle, that's not, again, under 18 inches. I would say between 12.5 and 16 inches because it's meant to be, again, a DMR, a designated marksman. You're in a squad. You're basically an infantryman with a special role, right? So your rifle kind of has to be suited for all those needs, CQB, going through the jungle, all that shit. And so that's my philosophy on a DMR. So it needs to reach out, but still also needs to be kind of short enough to do an infantryman's job to patrol and everything. But SPR, like Eric said, its main purpose is to reach out and touch somebody at distance. And so that's when you have those 18, 20-inch barrels, heavy barrels. They reach out like 600, 700, 800 meters. and touch somebody with effective velocity. So that's my difference on it. So, all right, everyone, batten down the hatches. Prepare. You about to get a knowledge dump. A knowledge dump.
So I have a little bit different of a definition than Eric does. I'm actually leaning more towards Thomas's definition of one. But DMRs, generally a DMR is going to be like Thomas said, it's going to be a kind of a jack of all trades style gun. It's a lot of these terms getting thrown around lately, but you hear the term recce getting thrown around as of late as of recent style rifle or a GPR or general purpose rifle. And that's one of the cool things is there's not really any technical nailed down definition of exactly what a DMR is. Now, on SPR, there is a very specific definition of what an SPR is. DMR is a lot of guys are running LPVOs on them. I've got a different opinion on LPVOs. That's really controversial. I don't like them.
That's gonna be a separate video.
Yeah, that'll be a separate video, but it's gonna hurt a lot of people's feelings on that. But like Thomas was saying, it's going to be a rifle that's going to be able to be adaptable to different kind of mission setups and what it is specifically that you're doing. All three of our rifles, I would say, are falling more to the SPR realm. We have these setups typically to be able to reach out to a certain distance. Generally, in SPR, you'll be able to reach out to roughly about 800 yards, depending on the ammunition that you're using. I run 75s in mine. They tend to do pretty good. I know Thomas and Eric both, they run 77s in theirs. But as far as like the technical terms of them goes, it's more of a fluid thing for DMRs, but SPRs, it's going to be your scoped style carbine like this. And specifically, it's going to be in 5.6 or a small frame pattern. Cool thing about being a civilian is you can set it up however the hell you want. You don't have a big daddy government telling you how you can do it. But DMRs is kind of a broader spectrum of different mission setups that are going to be a particular gun. If you're like we're in the mountains of Afghanistan, a lot of our guys carry 308s for DMRs because you need to be able to reach further than what 5.6 was actually capable of. And again, also DMRs guys, a lot of guys got issued scoped 5.6s as well. I know there's a video of Travis Haley out there somewhere on the rooftop running a DMR, and he had a M16 with a
I think it was a 20-inch barrel.
Yeah.
And he was reaching out like 600-700 meters. You know.
Yeah. I don't remember how far they were reaching out. I know he had some close engagements there because they were overrunning their position, and he had some further ones. As far as the definitions goes, I don't like getting too hung up on it. But SPR, there is kind of more of a little bit specific role. Now you could get really specific with it and actually do a train style SPR, which is going to be made by PRI, Precision Reflex Inc. I think is the technical name for the acronym for that. And that's going to be using a Douglas 18-inch barrel. So, I mean, as far as that goes, Eric.
Pretty much what Eric got.
He's got a 18-inch barrel running on his. But I'm short. I'm a nice, hefty 5'8". And once you start talking about throwing a suppressor on there as well, that rifle gets down past my knees. And I don't think the extra length of the 18-inch affords. And for me personally, I'm going to be able to do everything with this 16-inch gun that he's going to be able to do with that 18-inch gun. We'll have like 50 foot per second more velocity on an average across the field. But as Thomas found out today, like 55 grain out of these 16-inch barrels, yours push what, 3,050?
Yeah, my 16-inch barrel was pushing 3,000, average 3,059.
Yeah, and then mine pushes the same ammo at 3,047. So mine's just a little bit slower. Which he could have had a slightly harder round in his that pushed his standard deviation on his than what mine did, which brought his average up a little bit higher than what mine did. But we both have a 10-shot average on mine. We did a 5 on yours.
Yeah, and you know, I didn't think my 16 was pushing that. So see that it's pushing 3,000 with 55.
And 18 would probably push around 31.
Yeah, so Eric's 18. You know, that's again these 16-inch, 18-inch, 20-inch guns. When they're reaching out and touching somebody, they're just touching somebody.
Yeah, that'd be push more ways.
Right, but I did want to add SPR. Pretty much SPR is always going to have a magnified optic like this. right, for a greatly magnified optic. But DMR, I think that's more necessarily a skill that versus a rifle, because again,
Yeah,
like
it's
back in the day,
it's gonna be a mission set instead of just a specific setup.
right? Because like back in the day, before the DMRs really got refined how there was, a DMR, a designated marksman, was just a guy with a 14-inch, a 16-inch AR and an ACOG, just a 4-time scope. All right, you look at the guys back in I mean, granted they were called snipers, but they didn't really go to sniper school back in World War II, Korea. Like they were just kind of accurate shots who were just given a scoped rifle, and they were just tasked with taking out targets out the distance. You look at like the M1 Grand, it was like a 2.5 power scope, and they were still able to reach people out hundreds of meters. So I feel like they call that a sniper. I feel that's more of like a designated marksman's rifle.
I believe they did technically call them designated marksmen back then. Not 100% sure on that. And the Springfield, the 1903 Springfields come with, they had the 1903 A4, and it come with, I believe, a 10 power unit, which was like the long one. So they're like into the gun almost.
Yeah.
In Battlefield 1-1, I can say that big ass scope is on there. But
yeah,
you know,
I think Henry had one.
But yeah, that's my take on it. So like again, designated marksman is basically a designated marksman's rifle. Honestly, kind of be anything. It could even be somebody with an 11.5 or a 10.5 and an EOTech and a magnifier. I just feel like it's someone who's capable of taking precision shots.
So it's kind of like using the term sniper.
Yeah,
like sniper rifle. It's not it's a term that's thrown around, but it's a skill set, not a setup. An SPR
right.
setup.
Right.
Just like the term sniper is a designation for a human being that, as far as if we're going to go from a textbook definition of what the word sniper is, a sniper is a person who is trained to engage another human being at distance. So unless you are in that field, you're not a sniper. It's that simple.
All right. Want to answer shoe name because he's had it up here for a while. Best caliber for DMR SPR. If you ask me, if you're a civilian in America, 5.56, or if you really want to go 308, 5.56.
It's also going to be depending on your location. We live in Florida, so 5.56 is more than enough caliber, or more than enough bullet for us out here. If you live out in Mormon country, out in the Midwest somewhere, you might be better suited with a 6.5 Creedmoor or 308. So it's gonna be dependent on your area of what caliber that you go with. But you want to set something up that's going to set you up for success in your AO.
Facts. All right, so getting on the topic of optics, don't want to get too far off. All right, so we made the decision, I guess, like how we were saying, no, first before you get the optic, what do you want your rifle to be? Do you want it to be a designated marksman's rifle, or do you actually want it to be like Eric's, an SPR? No, so let's say, all right, I made a decision, I want a designated marksman's rifle. What type of optics should I be looking at for a designated marksman's rifle? Eric's got a good book up there. But what are, I guess, good suggestions? If you ask me, again, I'm kind of loyal to primary arms. I like the primary arms 2.5 to 10. But ACOGs are also a good option. If you got the money, LCANs, I think, are good options. LPVOs to a certain extent. LPVOs. But definitely want to get you guys' advice on what you think a good DMR scope would be. Because I think it should be able to, one, reach out, touch someone at distance, but yet at the same time be doable for close in. So it shouldn't have such like the first magnification should be like at 6 power, 5, 6, 7 power. It should be like 2.5, 1 power, 2.5, 3, or like a 4 power. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Do you want to go ahead and get into the soul crushing why LPVOs, like why it's not recommended? Why I don't personally recommend it.
I want to do a separate video for that. Because that itself is going to be a whole video. That itself, like all the experience and the talk we're going to put in from that rock pile is going to be a whole video. So yeah, we'll just leave.
I would avoid LPVOs. We'll leave it at that for now. So if you're on a lower magnification range and you're in an area where you're going to have to set up, you're going to have your setup in order to So the majority of your engagements would be close. I would set up either a offset dot with like a fixed power prism type optic, something like that, or do a red dot with a magnifier type setup, something like that. Reason being, with a red dot magnifier, red dots are a lot. They're parallax free for one. They're unlimited with your eye relief on them, and they are able to be used with night vision, with a passive aim with it. If you're in an environment where the op might have a set of night vision as well, you won't be flashing eye or lasers around or anything like that. You can be running something like that. So if you have a guy that's wanting to reach out and be able to touch somebody a little further away, and you're going to be afraid that your engagements might have close engagements as well, run a magnifier behind your red dot or an offset dot. If it's the opposite is true, and you think the majority of everything's going to be further away instead of up close, run a MPVO or HPVO, so a medium power with a offset dot. That way, you'll have that dot to be able to just rotate it with 45 degrees, or you can have this just piggyback straight to the 12 o'clock, similar to what Thomas has with his mount. And you can actually just pick up the foot and engage it close if you need to, and then rotate over that optic and be able to engage further away. So personally, it's going to be mission dependent. A lot of things are going to be mission dependent on what you want to do, but generally to set up a rifle for whatever you're trying to do.
All right. Eric, what is your take on the optic for a DMR rifle specifically?
Well, see, the funny thing is, because I do technically have a DMR and it has an LPVO on it. What I am going to do, as far as it's going to transition to what I'm talking about. As far as for a DMR optic, it shouldn't have like starting out at 6 power, simply because you're not going to be trying to reach out and engage at that distance with a DMR. That's more of an SPR or a 308 caliber style rifle. So something like a 2 to 10 or even a 4 to 16, which is what I am going to get and put onto that other gun. Just to be able to look and see out at like 300, 400 and be able to engage targets that way. Another thing to definitely take into consideration in an optic selection is the quality of the glass. Because of the fact that if I need you to, we'll look at it from a recce perspective, right? You're going into a location to gather information. You're not going there to necessarily engage. You're going in there to get information for other people to engage. So
we're gonna do a whole video on that as well. Recce. It's gonna be titled Recce, bro, because like people get Recce messed up. They get Recce messed up, bro. But I'm gonna let you continue on DMR optics. But yeah.
The point is, right, you want the clarity, and it's something that you should look at both for SPRs and DMRs, is the glass clarity. Because if I need you to identify certain characteristics or certain things on certain items, like when we play Where's Waldo, depending on your glass clarity, you may not actually get that type of performance, which is why like something like Keith's optic is a lot more advantageous. I love primary arms. It gets the job done, but the glass clarity in between the two is vastly superior. But we're looking at two different major price differences.
Yeah. So yours is around 350.
It's also why I have this book just kind of sitting here. What I definitely recommend anybody that wants to, as far as do some research or learn about SPR DMRs, buy this book and read it cover to cover. Okay, I'm gonna hold it up there real nice and pretty for everybody. All right, you can buy it on Amazon. It's only like $20. And it's chock full of knowledge that will definitely help you not only as you learn, but as you continue to learn. The book is made by Ryan Kleckner. I forgot what his background was specifically, but I know that long range engagement was his bread and butter.
That's a lot of people use that.
A lot of the book. From this book is what helped me make certain decisions with this rifle setups, particularly. So that's one of the reasons why me and Thomas are running the same optic, because the reticle in there by Primary Arms have a lot of tools that are built in to help with ranging, especially when you don't know the difference between mils and MOA, what 8 inches looks like at 300 yards.
Yeah.
What, as far as like when you look in the reticle, you're trying to do the tick mark, mathematics, all that jazz. A majority of that mathematics has already been done and built into the reticle, which is why Primary Arms is so dope. So That's one of the reasons why Emps is to be able to do that and be able to do it quickly.
There's also ways of being able to, there's actually a mathematical formula for being able to actually gauge the distance of an item. If you know roughly what the size is, now it's going to become less accurate the further away you get, because you're not going to have an exact item, but you can have like the size of a stop sign, or the human shoulder width is roughly 18 inches, which is actually what primary arms works off of. There's a mathematical formula that you can use, and you can use the optic to know how many hash marks inside the object it takes up, that specific size takes up. And you can use that, and it'll tell you how far away that object is. I believe it's for mils, it's 27.77 times mils observed divided by, or times 1,000 divided by mils observed would be the distance. I'm not going to try and do the math off the top of my head right now. And then for MOA, it's I believe it's 100 times MOA observed divided by, or 100 times the size of the target in inches divided by the MOA observed. And that will give you roughly the distance that you are to that target. But like Eric was saying, targets like what primary arms uses, they have little hash marks in there that are like a quick reference, and it takes all of that mathematical stuff out of the equation and allows you to very quickly identify the distance to a target and engage.
All right. So that is our take, guys, on DMR optics. It's basically serving two roles. I think bread and butter, some close in and some that can reach out. Now, SPRs. Let's talk about SPR optics. If you're going to build something like Eric got, an SPR, something with a long dick barrel, something that you're honestly not doing vehicle work with, you're not doing CQB with, like its primary purpose is to reach out. Like 600 yards is like you're just starting off type stuff, like, right? With 500-600 yards, like that's when you start making your money, because average infantryman, like Marine Corps, is out to 500. So you're looking at targets 500 and plus. So for me, that is when that's when like that lower end magnification, that's when it doesn't matter so much to me whether it's 3 power, 4 power, 6 power. I'm honestly looking at one, the objective lens. How big is the objective lens? That lets me know how much light is going in, I'm gathering into the scope, so I can see at those extended distances, whether it be dusk or dawn, because not every shot you take is going to be midday, perfect, no wind, anything like that. So you're going to need as much light you can to get as much information detail on that target downrange. So the objective lens, your end power, like how at the end of the magnification, like this is 3 to 18. For me, I want something, I think 12 power is like a minimum, but you definitely want something more than 12. Like you look at 4 to 16, 3 to 18. Keith is 3 to 15.
4 to 14.
4 to 14. All right, 14 power. So you're over the 12.
Barely.
Right, but I think also the most important, because a DMR optic, I don't think needs this, but a SPR does. Parallax adjustment. Yeah, being able to clean up that image at those extended distances, so it's just not like a blurry white fuzz. It's okay. It's a target with an AK and a white shirt hiding behind something, right?
Parallax also, might interject real quick. Not only does it clear up the image, so you look at parallax. Yes, like the focusing knob, but as you move your head back and forth behind that reticle, if you're not perfectly behind that and your parallax isn't set for that specific distance, any amount of movement on your head is going to rotate and shift the reticle. It'll appear as if it's staying where it's at on the target, but it's like the parallax right as you move and you don't get right behind the optic in the exact same spot. Every time it's going to throw your shot off slightly. The further away you get, the more that this phenomenon is going to magnify. So being able to actually adjust your parallax in order to be able to minimize the amount of movement that you're having in relationship to your head and the reticle and the target that you're looking at through the optic is going to be extremely important. You can actually, that's one thing that they teach you whenever you're setting your parallax is you'll get behind the gun, get a nice sheet rest on the gun, and you look at the reticle, and you want to focus on the target. You don't want to be reticle focused. You want to be target focused. And a lot of like optics that I've got, for instance, has a gap in between the crosshair. It's a quarter of the way gap. But you sit there and turn that parallax, focused on the target, and you rotate your head up and down and side to side until you notice less movement. When that parallax isn't set perfectly for that distance that you're at, you'll notice that that reticle shifts in relationship to the target, and the more that you get on that parallax, the less shift that you actually have. So having a parallax option is going to be really important. It's going to help you when you're reaching distance. LPDOs and the optics that don't have parallax have a sense kind of like a mid-range type thing for whatever they think they'll be engaging up to. I don't know off the top of my head what they set this to. Say they set it to 400 yards, and it's going to be dead on at 400 yards. The closer you get, it's going to change a little bit, and the further you get, vice versa, it's going to change a little bit. It's going to affect the way you're seeing the target in relation to where the red is at.
Okay. All right, Eric, your takes on what makes an SPR optic an SPR optic?
Kind of regurgitating what I said earlier. Last clarity. Because out at distance, I want to be able to PID specific things, kind of like how you said. If I'm looking for a target that's wearing a white shirt, carrying an AK, I want to be able to see that, okay, that's 100% a white shirt, and that's 100% an AK. Versus if I have blurriness or any kind of clarity issue, that white shirt may seem tan in some lighting condition. Definitely having, which is one of the reasons why I have an 18 power optic. It's kind of a dual purpose thing for me. And I remember me and Keith were going back and forth about this. As far as my optic collection, what I want to do is be able to gather information from a distance, and observe not only up close via when I magnify out the 18, gather that information, but I also want to back out the 14 and get my surrounding information, like what are the trees doing, what are the roads doing, what's the wind doing, et cetera, et cetera. Even if I'm just observing, like let's use a building for an example, right? I may want to just focus on one room, but I also want to see, what's the surrounding area looking like? Are there other cars or any trucks coming in? Are there any, if it's like a weapons cache, let's just really go down the woo-woo path. If it's a weapon cache that we're observing, how many people are moving in and out? How much munitions are moving in and out of that one area? How many vehicles are in that area? What's my infill as far as if I have to go down there? What's my exfil route, et cetera? There's a lot of things that the optics will do for you from a gathering information perspective that which is why I chose this optic. And that's what, as far as an SPR setup should be. Now, kind of going back to the Mark 12, which it's a little bit contradictory to this setup, but again, I think this opted because I wanted to do a little bit of a dual purpose. The Mark 12 SPR uses a 2 to 10 power optic, which, out to 10 power, at like 600 yards, how much information am I really gathering? I'm gathering a decent amount, but not as much as if I had a 14 power optic or 18 power optic. So that's why again, I chose this because I wanted to do a little bit more with this setup. Because again, even from a DMR perspective, not always necessarily you're going to engage. Sometimes you're going to just gather information. You carry the weapon system in the event that you have to engage.
All right, sir. I think those are good takes. Try to find the gist. Again, it's a lot of information. That's why I'm excited about these lives. A lot of information, not just bullshit being put out. So that's our take, guys, on the optic. We've broken down the difference between a DMR and SPR. So when you're building, now you know what you want. And now you've gone to optics. Now you've gone down, you picked your road, your path, right? And now going down the path, you're kind of just going on your journey. Now you found the optic. All right, now let's get, because I don't want to be too long. I want to be able to have time for us to talk about all the other nuances, because there's a lot of nuances that go in the DMR. It's not just the optic, barrel, and trigger. Those are the three main ones that you really got to get down pat. You have to get those three straight. There's other things that add to the accuracy and reliability of a DMR SPR. But next, I think is just as important. I think it's most important if you ask me. But next importancy is the barrel, because you see what's out at distance, but now you got to be able to effectively hit it. And so, again, let's break it down. So we're building a DMR. What type of barrel do we need for a DMR? If you ask me, I would say anything between a 12.5 and a 16-inch barrel, because again, a DMR, your role as a designated marksman is still an infantryman job. So you still got to clear, go on patrols, rucking. You still got to clear buildings. You still got to carry that thing for all those distances. So you don't want something too long, too heavy that's going to wear you out. But you still want something that's long enough that's going to provide that that velocity at 400, 500, 600 meters. And so that's why I feel like 12.5 is bare minimum. 12.5, I think, is a bare minimum. If like you're trying to get out to 500, effectively 600 max. But if you kind of want to really give yourself that velocity and that range, and that distance, I would say between 13.7 and 16 for a DMR barrel. And you want it to be not any run-of-the-mill barrel. Granted, those will work if it's shit hit the fan, but you want your barrel to be one MOA guaranteed at least. One MOA guaranteed at least. Like, because again, you're shooting really far, so accuracy is paramount. So you want every little bit of accuracy you can get, and so you want a good barrel. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Because I'm sure we all agree, our two primary manufacturers we get for barrels, Roscoe's Manufacturing and Ballistic Advantage. Like, you don't really need a barrel from anyone else but those two. And they make good barrels well under $200. Well under $200. And they have them on sale where I've seen them under $120. Right? But you want a good barrel made by a good manufacturer that's going to provide you that accuracy and consistency out to those extended distances. Right? Because when you're shooting, especially as a DMR, designated marksman, there's going to be times you use that rifle to lay down fire like you're using like a standard AR-15 because you're an infantryman. Then you get to a position and now you have to provide cover fire. Like you fight to like how we did the bounding drill. We got to that hill. Once we got to that hill, there was extended distances like 1,000 yards. So you fight to that point, laying down cover fire. Now your barrel's hot, but you're still going to need it to provide accurate fire even though it's really hot. So those are things you have to take in consideration when you make a DMR, even SPR, but right now DMR, because with a DMR, you may then likely be laying down cover fire like that, putting down high volumes of fire. Where with an SPR, you may, but it's not the primary mission of it to, lay down cover fire so you and your buddy can bound to a position or bound away from position. It's just meant to be in a static position and firing precision rounds. So that's my take on it. So Keith,
so I kind of agree with Thomas's take on that. So DMR, generally with the DMR, you're going to want to have one of the big things is the ruggedness of the barrel and how well is able to take the amount of abuse from the higher volumes of fire that you might be having to put in. It's going to be similar to what you see in like with the bounding video where you may be putting 200-300 rounds to the gun in a single bounding drill, kind of an engagement, trying to keep the enemy down. There's a DMR and SPR with that. Is an SPR, generally you're going to want to run a stainless steel barrel, so you're going to have something a little more accurate. But stainless doesn't have as long of a service life as, say, a cold forged chrome line or a nitride QPQ melanite barrel, something like that. Those are going to generally last. The melanite and chrome line barrels are going to last a good bit longer than stainless barrels. Now, as far as should I buy a chrome line or should I buy a melanite, my advice is buy a melanite. Mike Mahowski, the Sons of Liberty Gunworks, did a whole lot of destructive testing with the different types of barrels and seeing how long they would take. And I know the old adage is that chrome line barrels, cold ever forged chrome line barrels last longer, but something that they found. And they spent a lot more money than any of us are going to do with destructive testing to find this out, is that the results overlap each other. And some chrome line barrels outlast the melanite, some melanite outlast the chrome line, but a melanite barrel is, like Thomas said, they're going to be significantly cheaper. And I also agree, I like Roscoe manufacturing barrels quite a bit because I have 3 right now, and all 3 of them are Southern Wood barrels. The 2 melanite ones, usually they'll hover just under an inch, between 3/4 and just under an inch. So they shoot pretty good for that kind of barrel. And that's using max ammo, mind you. Ball ammo, when you start doing ball ammo, you're going to start running into issues with the ammunition, with the barrel ammo being less consistent, so it's going to open those groups up. But generally, you want to be under 2 with ball ammunition. Both Ballistic Advantage and Roscoe Manufacturing can do a really good job with that of keeping those barrels under or under 2 MOA for ball ammo and under MOA for match ammo. And that's also shooter dependent. A 2 MOA shooter is going to shoot 1 MOA with a 1 MOA gun. Because it's a 2 MOA shooter, that's something skill set you need to learn and get better at. Now, SPRs, generally you're going to run a stainless steel barrel on these guys because generally these are going to be a bit accurate. Reason being, the coatings that you get on PPQ and bromine 404 barrels are going to change the surface area, and it's going to cause deficiencies in the barrel harmonics. It's going to cause generally something like barrel that it's going to cause. But these are also not going to have as long as the shelf life because those coatings that we put in those barrels harden the material and they make the material last a whole lot longer. So, like Thomas was saying, DMR, you're going to want to be able to put down high volumes of fire. So you keep the bad guy's head down. SPR, it's going to be low volumes of fire, of accurate fire, knocking his head down whenever it pops up. And you're not going to be doing bounding drills with it. I mean, I'm sure it's been done in the past. In Afghanistan, Iraq, it's done a whole lot of weird things. Guys have done a lot of different things like that. But that's my take on that. Generally, it's how it works.
Mm-hmm. All right, Eric, your take on what makes DMR barrel special?
Kind of regurgitating, like you said, 12.5, which is one of the reasons why I run a 12.5 carbine, because it fills that gap in between the regular fighting carbine, like something like Keith's 10.5. But what I'm able to do with that 12.5 is reach out a little bit further and touch something with lethality. But if we're going to go like standard 16 inches, definitely 100%. If you want to chop the barrel back because you are going to be doing a little bit more close quarters, kind of like how Keith was saying, as far as like that bounding drill, and you're moving from position to position, 13.7 definitely. The other thing to look for as far as in a barrel, and it goes not only just for DMRs but FPRs as well, you want to look for a barrel that's in 223 wide. Because 223 wild profile take the best of what 223 Remington and 5.56 as far as the tolerances, accuracy, and slap them together. So that way, because everybody knows the rule of thumb, you can shoot 5.56 through I'm sorry, you shoot 223 through a 5.56.
3 through 5.6, but 5.6. I think you still can't. It's just over time, like again and again, the overpressure is going to eventually wear your gun out.
You're playing with fire there because they can blow up. It's rare and it's in extreme circumstances, like it's really hot outside and you got a round that's a little bit harder than what it should be. And you're loading a 5.56 and a 223 chamber. It's a tighter chamber than 223 is, and they can go pop. That's a bad thing. It's 223 Remington, not big.
That's why you go with 3 wild. But for as far as like where the market is, when you guys are going to go and start looking all this stuff up, that's something that you don't necessarily really have to worry about because it's not really too many 223 Remington barrels that are out there. Most of your big name companies, like how we mentioned, Ballistic Advantage, and Roscoe, they all have 5.6 barrels. Roscoe, with the purebred line, they specifically only do 223 wild barrels. The only thing you would have to look into as far as the difference between like 5 barrel, all their purebreds are 223 wild, bro.
I thought you said their bloodlines. You said their bloodlines were 223. I'm like, it's backwards, bro.
Bloodline. Their bloodline is like their regular ones. But
the purebreds, they're stainless steel. Yeah, match performance. Yeah.
Difference between my barrel and Keith's barrel because we have the same company. We just have 2 different barrel lengths and we have 2 different twist rates. His is a 1-8 twist. Mine's a 1-7.
1-8 as well. No, it's 1-8 as well.
Yeah. Mine's the 223 wilds are 1-8. Mine's a 1-8.
Yours a 1-8. Okay, hold on. Let me double check that. Because I was looking on their website not too long ago. But yeah, those are the main things. When it comes to a DMR barrel, 16 inches. If you want to chop it back and pin and weld it, you can do a 13.7. If you kind of want like a Glock gold standard, it won't do great, but it'll still do good. 12.5 is a good choice as well. So yeah. What's the next question, Tom?
All right. Damn, I almost forgot for a second. What was I gonna say? Okay. So harping on since if you're a DMR and you have to lay down that high volumes of fire, you probably do not want to look at, because I want to talk about the properties like stainless steel and all that. You probably do not want a stainless steel barrel, correct?
Yeah, you don't want, if you're going to be thinking like you're going to be running high volumes of fire through the weapon, go ahead and go with a melanite. Don't go chrome line. Chrome line's outdated. I'm sure somebody will say, well, Grandpappy's chrome line barrel lasted 4 million rounds. There are outliers of chrome line that last a long time. I know Grantham has a Daniel Defense Mark 18 with a chrome line barrel that's like some ludicrous number, like 80 or 90,000 rounds suppressed, and it's still ticking. And you see how much he shoots and how fast he shoots. But still, that's an outlier. It can happen, but that's not every instance, and you're going to have overlapping results, like I was saying before, with melanite chrome line. So just go melanite if you're getting high volumes of fire, and then go stainless if you're specifically like the precision niche for that setup.
Okay. Good. So gas systems. No, they got carbine length, mid length, rifle length. For DMR, if you're under 16 inch, I don't think you're really going to get a rifle length gas system, but definitely a mid length gas system is what you should look at. Mid length gas systems are completely reliable, even suppressed, and they do give you a lighter felt recoil. And as a designated marksman, follow-up shots are important. So being able to place a round accurately on a target and place another round as quick as possible on that target, because one shot, one kill doesn't always happen. All right, is also important. So there's that to take an effect. How much your barrel weighs. Again, if you're a designated marksman, an SPR guy probably wants a different barrel than a designated marksman. If you got to hump this rifle for like how we did for 10 miles in the woods, having the heaviest barrel out there meant for accuracy probably is not what you want.
I have to lug it at 10.5 with a quad rail.
Right. But at the same time, you probably don't want a pencil barrel if you're going to be laying down high volumes of fire. All right. So, I feel like if you ask me, a government profile barrel is straight, like Roscoe's, if you're looking for a designated marksman's role. So again, when you think designated marksman, I feel like this is what majority of people are talking about when they say, I want a do-all gun. I want a recce gun. They're really talking about a designated marksman, somebody who can engage close in and also reach out and touch somebody. So that one rifle that can do both those roles. And so, yeah, definitely. I think I'm losing my train of thought a little bit, but yeah.
I've been shooting all day. I'm exhausted.
Right. So, moving on to the SPR barrel. So I'm looking at SPR. This rifle is specifically meant to engage targets long range. I'm not laying down cover for my buddy. We're already in the hide and everything, or have a separate firearm for that purpose. Okay. I guess they don't want us touching the guns, so I guess we gotta put the guns on the table. Don't touch them.
Yeah, we're using a different platform that's just streaming to YouTube, so we're actually able to. The algorithm can't touch us here.
I'm about to say it's a workaround, guys. So put that in your.
Yeah, you can.
That's what I figured. I've seen people touch all the time, but whatever.
Yeah, because if you read the community guidelines, because I read it the other day, because I got an email from it. You can't stream on YouTube's streaming platform and do that. You do that off of a third party and kick it over. This is how we're doing it. So we're not.
Most people go like Twitch or Discord and do it.
Exactly. It's like I streamed it on Twitch and kicked it over to YouTube. It's the same concept.
All right.
So it's kind of go on what Thomas was talking about with the weight of the barrel that you're going to have. So one thing you're going to really worry about with running an SPR is your barrel's harmonics. Pencil barrels generally are going to have sloppier harmonics, or what people will call barrel whip. So as you fire that barrel, there's movement in it every time that you fire that barrel, it moves out. And so think of like a guitar string. Depending on where you place your hand on the guitar string, whenever you're strumming the guitar, it's going to make a different noise on the same string. And you're going to want to think of that's harmonics is what that is. Your barrel is going to work a certain way, and depending on the profile or the way that the barrel is cut out, the barrel is going to have better harmonics. And what that's going to translate to downrange is once that starts to heat up and the metal starts to change, because when the metal heats and expands, once it starts to change, it's not going to stress in weird areas. It's going to cause weird outliers or flyers downrange. And that's kind of the reason for profile. The Mark 18, the Mark 12 SPR specific barrel, and also I think Eric, yours is a Mark 12 profile. Am I correct?
And also, when because I'm looking on my laptop, that's why I keep looking over this way. I just pulled it up off of Roscoe's website. Your 16-inch barrel is a 1 in 8 twist, 100% confirmed. Mine's a 1 in 7.
But is your SPR a Mark 12 profile barrel, or is it a different one?
Yes, that's one of the reasons why I picked this barrel. They said even in their description they modeled it after the 12 SPR.
So what's going to happen is this: as you shoot, once that barrel starts to heat up, you're going to be able to run the gun a little bit longer and maintain accuracy, depending on the profile, the Mark 12 profile in particular. And it's also going to shift the weight in such a way that's going to make the rifle a little bit more wieldy. I know Thomas's rifle, you're running the ace bar, and that's basically a taper. So it's thicker towards the chamber, and it just has a continuous taper towards it gets towards the end. So you're not putting that weight up front, but the design of that barrel is set in such a way so you'll have a lightweight barrel, but you have kind of a sort of a jack of all trades type thing.
It's like taking a heavy profile barrel and a pencil barrel and making right. So my rifle is honestly like a hybrid of a DMR and an SPR, right? Because it's got a barrel that you would really put in the SPR and like an SPR optic, but it's a 16-inch, and I can lay down cover fire with it and everything like a DMR. But I don't know. I'm just like that. But but yeah, definitely. SPR its main purpose is to reach out the distance and provide that accurate fire. So I think most people, when they're talking about DMR, SPR, they're really thinking of a DMR, or they're just thinking of a Mark 12. I think that's what most people. They just think of a Mark 12.
Real quick, I want to kind of address Eugene Anderson's comment. He's saying Mark 12 literally has a stainless barrel, high rates of fire are not an issue. That's because of the profile of the barrel, the way it's designed. It is designed to be able to handle high rates of fire a bit better. But
you still can, even if it's stainless steel. That doesn't mean you can't. It's just saying that it's not the primary purpose.
What's going to happen is with a stainless barrel, over time, what's going to happen is a stainless barrel will wear out faster as you heat it up. It doesn't have that coating that a melanite or a QPQ or a chrome line cold hammer forged barrel will. That protects it from erosion. So what ends up happening every time you fire around, there is a flat 90-degree shoulder that casing is almost butt up against. When that bullet leaves the casing, that powder's coming out behind it on the chamber end of it, and it's going to sandblast. And over time, it's going to start to dish with your stainless steel barrels, and that's kind of what we're referencing. It's also you're going to run the sheet on the muzzle end. It's going to dish outwards, and what happens whenever it gets past the point where it's out of spec, you now have an area where inside the barrel and that bullet's free floating down inside the rifle. It's not actually engaging, or it's not engaging as well the rifling as it should, and that's whenever you're going to start having destabilization of bullets coming out of the barrel, and bullets will actually start impacting the target sideways. It'll come out and it'll just immediately start healing. That's also really bad if you're an suppressor. I actually have a AAC 762 SD with a baffle strike because of that, or incap strike because of that. And after you've worn a barrel out or shot a barrel out, I've got 2 or 3 sitting somewhere that are shot out like that, where the muzzle is worn out, and then as you fire and the bullets are coming out and they're hitting the target or the paper sideways. Stainless barrels, that's going to happen sooner than it will with a melanite, which is why we're talking about the SPR. Even the Mark 12 is not designed for high rates of fire like that in E16 with a protective coating foam landing on the inside of that barrel wood. If that makes any sense.
All right, Eric.
What's the question?
I was just referring to the comment that was on there.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's right.
You can continue.
Okay.
Because I'm monitoring the chat too on my end.
Yeah, because Eric is the only one technically with an SPR here. So I want to know why did Eric, why did you go with an 18-inch SPR,
He's a
profile,
large boy.
right? Versus like a DMR, like how me and Keith have.
Two. So yeah, in all honesty, right? When I put this together, going back to this book again, I was reading a lot of information. I was taking a lot of information from Keith. At the time when I was setting my stuff up, you already had your DMR set up already. So I was gathering a lot of that information from you guys. And then as I kept reading and learning and stuff, the main things as far as my plan, and that's one of the reasons why we emphasize when you set something up, have a plan for what you're setting up. Because otherwise you're just going to buy parts and you're going to slap them together and it's not going to do what you're looking for it to do, and you're going to be pissed off at yourself at doing so. So I came into this with a clear and concise plan. I wanted to maximize the lethality of what the 223 cartridge or 5.56 cartridge was capable of, and I wanted to have a very soft shooting rifle to be able to do accurate follow-up shots. So when I looked again at the Mark 12 SPR, that's what the whole purpose behind that entire weapon system was designed behind. Being able to engage not only at closer distances, but at longer ranges with lethality with a 77 grain projectile. So one of the test beds I did for this rifle was, and I assembled it like right at the beginning of the pandemic. And at the time, I was able to get my hands on 6 Sauer 77 grain OTM rounds. And that was my goal, was to run primarily that ammunition through this gun. But as we all unfortunately found out, ammo started going off the shelf. I couldn't even get my hands on it. The last really good quality amount of ammunition I was able to get was a box of Black Hill 77 grains, and I tested it on that. Now, what me and Keith did find when we were testing it, that SIG stuff and that Black Hill stuff is very similar, but the Black Hills is superior just because of what it is. Now, going back to kind of like Thomas was saying, as far as like maneuverability with a DMR, this is not designed for me to run around and run and gun with. That's why I don't have a side-mounted optic. This is meant primarily to either be laying in a covered position, laying in prone, or in a seated position with this straddled in a tripod, and being able not only to observe targets, gather data, but engage if necessary. Because I'm not gonna lie, it's not light in comparison.
It's a hefty boy.
This is not a lightweight setup. It's I would say if I had to put it on scale, I would probably say it's about, with the optic, maybe 8, maybe 10 pounds. I'm not 100% sure. I actually am going to put it on a scale to find that information out. But again, this is not designed in any way, shape, or form to be a get up and gang gun. This is a 100%. I'm gonna lay down in a position if I have, and it's not that big of a deal because I have walked through the woods with this gun. Can you do it? Yes. Is it gonna suck? Absolutely. Yes. But again, that was my mindset and the purpose behind this entire setup. Taking again a lot of that I learned from Keith, a lot of knowledge that I learned from this book. I think I accomplished the mission set that I had set out for this specific this specific weapon system.
Dope. All right. Chat's been going good. I want to pause and give a shout out to all you guys in here who've been following for an hour now, a little bit over an hour. Some of you have been watching since the beginning. I see people come in and out, but there's been quite a few y'all, at least 10 of y'all that's kind of been here, 10 to 15 of y'all that's been here like the entire time. And I know someone's listening to us while they're driving, like the podcast, which is pretty dope. We're definitely going to do more of these. I like kind of how it is, how we can really give out all kind of information. And then we have you guys in the chat to ask questions live instead of like we just post a video, then you post a comment whenever, and maybe we'll see it, maybe we don't. So I want to give a shout out to all y'all who are listening to the live now. Short Bus Podcast. No, playing. All right, so we talked about optics. We talked about barrels. Now somehow, as my gun magically moves without me touching it, because I don't know if you can do that. All right, it just floats over there. Now we're going to talk about. Let's lower this. All right, keep it back. There we go. We're going to talk about triggers. All right, so we talk about what we want. All right, we found a DMR, SPR, what we want. Now we found the optic. We want to see the type of target we want to engage out to that distance. Now we talked about the barrel, how we're going to reach out there. So we see the target. We talked about how we're going to reach it. Now we're going to talk about how we're going to send it. Well, it's kind of the barrel, but the trigger is also important, right? Because you do not want to make any. You want a good, crisp trigger that's not going to be too heavy or too light, but it's going to give you a steady, consistent.
So looking at Josh, if he happens to be in here, he's got that super lightweight single stage Geisley, and I bump fire it every time I shoot his gun.
Right, and that's important because when it comes to triggers, especially with DMR triggers or not DMRs, just rifle triggers, typically you have single stage and two stage. Single stage will just you have that little bit of take up and it'll break. A two stage will it gives you a little bit of take up, so you kind of stage the trigger, right? So if you have a 5-pound trigger and you have a 2-stage trigger, lets you take a little bit of take up, so that 5 pounds becomes more of like 2.5, 3 pounds. Gives you, in theory, makes you that much more accurate because you don't have a heavy trigger pull disturbing your sight picture, causing your muscles and everything to pull harder. And we'll get into it, but definitely a good trigger goes a long way in building a capable DMR SPR rifle. That's why when you go on to certain sites like Geisley, they'll say like DMR trigger on there specifically or something like that, or any site. And that's the reason why they have match triggers or marksman triggers or whatever type of triggers they want to label it, precision triggers. And it's because it's vitally important in sending out that round out the distance. And so I have a velocity precision single stage trigger. It works, but to be honest, I miss my Geisley 2-stage trigger. If you ask me if you're building DMR or SPR, you want a 2-stage trigger. Just kind of set standard 2-stage trigger, because I've been rocking a single stage. I had a 2-stage, and I know that I can see the differences, and I miss a 2-stage. You definitely want a 2-stage, something that lets you take a little bit of take up, stays that trigger. It really does help add in accuracy and sending rounds down range. So that's my little talk on it, my little take on it. So we had Keith been going. Eric, you gonna go this time? We're gonna switch it up.
That's fine. Yeah, because probably after this part I gotta go because I'm looking at my phone as well. Kind of to touch on one of the comments, trigger control. That's number one. Because at the end of the day, you can have the nice trigger on planet Earth. You can put a nice Geisley National High Speed trigger in there, and if your trigger control is crap, you ain't gonna get hits.
Okay.
But putting that as far as the foundation, right? When you're looking at triggers, again, kind of touching on what Thomas was saying, a 2-stage trigger is more advantageous in comparison to a single stage. There are some people that do run single stage triggers in a setup like this, but the reason why having a 2-stage trigger is a little bit better is it's kind of like I'll use the Glock as an example. How you all want to take the trigger to the wall, you get to the wall, and then you break the shot. That's basically how a 2-stage trigger works. When you place your finger on the trigger for a 2-stage, you have a little bit of take up, and I'm using my Geisley SSA as an example. Because I have the actual metrics right here. The first stage is about 2 3/4 to about 3 pounds, and then the actual and that's the take up from where it's sitting right now to that first stage. And then the second stage is about 1.5 to 1 3/4 pound pull. So altogether it makes about a 4 1/4, 4 3/4 pull, depending on kind of like Keith's trigger. If you have a flat base, you can kind of place your finger a little bit more at the bottom to get a little bit more coverage on that trigger. So it feels a little bit lighter to you. One of the little gems I'm about to drop for everybody. Because again, I'm running the Geisley SSA trigger. It's not the enhanced one, the one before that. That Geisley G2S trigger, if you look at this one as far as specs wise, they're exactly the same. The only difference is the G2S is $165 and this trigger is $200 and something.
There's a couple of other ones, other differences as well. But as far as feel goes, the SSA is going to feel, because I have a G2S as well. The SSA feels a little less gritty, but over time those triggers become really manageable. And in mine now, because that particular trigger has well north of 100,000 rounds being pulled on, I actually broke one of the Geisley trigger springs. I have it sitting here somewhere. I might have thrown it away. Yeah, I think I threw it away. But I actually broke one of the original spring that came in it. I snapped one of the legs off of it. But kind of what Gentle Killer commented here, he said Geisley SSP or SSAE and get on the life. That's generally what I'm going to tell people. I said when they ask me, hey, what trigger do I need for an SPR or precision gun or really any carbine, I say just get a Geisley and move on because you cannot go wrong with them. And they are the gold standards as far as triggers on the market right now. All of my hard use go-to guns all have Geisley triggers in them, and I will stand by them. Now, as far as the biggest difference that you're going to physically see between G2S and SSA, a G2S, whenever you pull a hammer out, I believe it's on the right side, instead of the spring that holds that retaining pin being inside the middle of the trigger like it is for every other one, they put it on the outside for some reason. Not quite sure why they did that, but that is a difference. So you want to make sure if you get a Geisley G2S that you don't lose that little spring that's on the side or throw it away because you got to lock it onto the side of that hammer. And then you're going to drive the pin on it. You're going to make sure that the notch is on the side. You don't have one of the ones on the middle notch on there. But that's other than that, there's not a whole lot of difference. And for the pipe,
it's all a regular mil-spec trigger. Because even when I did this one, because I just put a G2S in buddy of mine's rifle, it doesn't come with a slave pin. That's the thing he's talking about that retains the top.
It's a different spring. You're talking about. This guy here, this is a slave pin. Yeah, guys, the triggers usually come with this, and it makes it much easier to install a trigger. I'm talking about there's a retaining spring. So if you take the hammer out, there's a retaining spring, and you can actually see it. Right, there's a retaining spring. On the G2S, it's on the side over here. That retaining spring, it's not captured in the middle of the hammer. That's what I'm saying is the other difference.
Yeah, they had to cut the cost in some way, shape, or form as far as the difference between this trigger and the G2S. But the G2S is definitely a great option if you're trying to save a little bit of bucks. But definitely go with something like the SSA or the SSAE. Or if you want to get a flat face, go with something like Keith's. Hold on, what's the name of your Keith?
I have an SDE on my SPR. It's a flat face.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the G2, what has the G2S in it. It's the 10.5 carbine. And like I said, this trigger has been in miniguns, and it's been through mini rebarrels, and it has well north of 100,000 rounds on it. And the only thing I've had to replace on it is the hammer spring. One of the two legs on that hammer spring snapped off. It actually still worked. I was in Texas when that happened, doing a memorial shoot for a buddy of mine that passed. And the spring broke while we were there, and I had a stoppage inside the trigger when the spring initially broke because that leg fell down inside. I had to get there and pull it out. But after that, I put about another 8 or 9 rounds through it, and the 3-day shoot, I shot 1,500 rounds total, and I put about 800-900 rounds through it after that, and it still ran. It's kind of see, I guess. I did change it out as soon as I got back, put a new spring in it, but. That's the only breakage that I've had in that amount of time. So it's $165. It's not as crisp to start out as your more expensive Geisleys, but still a very valid option. And I actually ran that trigger for the longest time in a precision rifle before I changed and got a new one that I run a STE now on that.
All right, but all right, dope. We let me fix this. I think we had a good good live here. I think. All right. So for those who just coming in, they don't know the difference. No, they want to build some type of rifle that can reach out and touch somebody. So now we talked about the difference between a DMR and an SPR. Now they know what they want. So it was like, if you want a DMR, you want an optic that can be used for close in and out the distance, right? So make sure your first magnification isn't too powerful. Then on top of that, you want a barrel that's going to be between 12.5 and 16 inches, and preferably you don't want to go stainless steel, right? Because you want something that's going to be able to provide accuracy and still lay down a high volume of fire and maintain that accuracy through all that. And then a 2-stage trigger. All right. So if you want an SPR, so to reach out and touch somebody, you're gonna want to look at that in magnification. How high does magnification go at the end of it? You want a minimum of at least 12, but preferably 14, 16, 18, 24. You want something like that. Barrel length. Your 16 inch is probably not what you want. You want something that's 18, 20 inches. That's really going to provide that velocity. Again, like I said, 500-600 meters that's when your work is starting, right? And then on top of that, 2-stage trigger as well. So I feel like we've had a good live. And I do want to give the chat a time, if you guys can, to ask questions. I want to just give that have a little time of that. We'll max out at 2 hours. So we got like 40 minutes to answer questions. And I saw a shoe name. He had asked a question way back up here, way back. It says, best weight for a DMR SPR. Now, I think we kind of hinted on that. If you want a DMR, remember, you're going to have to hump this thing like a normal infantryman. And so you're not going to want something that's going to be too heavy, right? But the lightest thing on the market probably isn't the best. But now, if you want a SPR, the weight probably isn't something to be worried about, right? Because that weight is there for a reason. It's actually a benefit to have that weight. That's my take. So, guys, real quick, if you want to answer it, like real quick answers.
While we're waiting on questions, another thing I want to go over kind of, and this is kind of off topic, but not really, and that is signature reduction is going to be really important with an SPR. I know that a lot of people are afraid, if you're not in the NFA world, of actually divulging into it and actually getting a suppressor, but more than sound, one of the biggest things that these things are going to do for you is signature reduction. If somebody's seen your flash signature downrange, they're going to pick that up pretty quickly, and these are going to hide that really well. And also the added benefit of it being a suppressor and suppressing the gunshot, it's going to be a little bit more confusing for them to be able to find and actually reach out and engage you. It's going to be harder for them to directly tell exactly where it is that you are. SPR DMR 16-inch. My SPR DMR is 16-inch with an ACOG. Gentle killer. Yeah, man. So ACOG is an absolutely excellent optic. They're incredibly rugged. The reason they give them the Marines is because we break everything.
And they still break ACOGs?
They still break ACOGs, but it's a lot less likely. And one of the really good things about an ACOG that you're going to actually get is the amount of field of view that you're actually getting with those. You're sacrificing eye relief. So, I mean, you run an ACOG, you got to get right up on that bitch. Or be able to see behind it, but you're going to have a significantly wider field of view and get kind of a gauge of what's going on range versus what you would with a medium power variable optic like a 4-14 or 8.
Eric had to go.
That's all right.
All right. I want to get Victory has defeated you. Thoughts on Type A 13.7? I don't know about Type A, but 13.7s I think are good in between. No, I think they're a good DMR size, or how people say. I'm gonna stop saying recce because we're gonna do a video on recce and why people should stop saying it. It's a good general purpose length. I'll put it like that.
Yeah, it's kind of a dumb term. It always come out with the reconnoiter type stuff is where it came from, or reconnaissance is where it came from. And again, that term is going to be thrown around similar to what DMR is. It's going to be more of a mission or a skill set, rather than a specific rifle. But as far as your question goes with a 13.7, it depends on your AO. like I was saying before, if you live out in Mormon country and you're having to the possibility of engagements further away, that's not going to be something that's good for you. If you're like us, living in rural Florida, where the furthest shots that we'll get on a regular basis are like 700-800 yards at the top end, and that still would be scarce, then a 13.7 would do you some good. You'll be able to reach out to those distances now, 800 yards or something like that. 13.7, that bullet is going to have significantly less umph, and once that bullet actually goes transonic, so it goes below the sonic barrier,
that's slower than the speed of sound for y'all.
Yep. You're going to have issues with wind. Wind's going to affect it a whole lot more than whenever it's supersonic, and also the amount of energy that round's actually putting out. A subsonic 5.56 is a 22 long rifle. You're getting 22 long rifle velocities out of that, and that is not going to have very good effects on targets. So again, it's just going to depend on the distances that you feel you will need to engage with, and you're going to want to work something based off of that. Don't quote me, but I believe 13.7 goes subsonic around 650 to 700. So that's not a whole lot of distance, where these 16-inch guns, we're still pushing 1,800 feet per second at that distance.
Yeah, definitely when we were shooting out there today, seeing how kind of easily my 16 was going out to 541. Granted, I had this, we were going to kind of work on the issue with the scope. And see if it is an issue, if it's just me. But yeah, just seeing how effective and how fast it's going out to them targets. And like when you shooting out the furthest one you had was a 636?
637, yeah.
Like even on that target, I can even see it get hit and it'll still wobble. So it's still providing velocity out past 500 yards. And like I said, 500 was my engagement I wanted to be really effective at. And so
I want to be able to master everything. I want to be able to master out to 800 yards, and I've taken this out to 1,000. And I know it's kind of a lot of shooters that haven't got the privilege of shoot at distance. I've heard a lot of guys saying like it's not possible to get effective engagements out to 1,000 yards with a 5.56. It absolutely is, but it's again going to come down to the effect that your round's going to have on target. I may be able to smack a steel at that distance, but it's not going to be doing very much. And it's also you're having a lot more issues with environmentals. So realistically, 800 yards, 600 to 800 yards is going to be your bread and butter for what you want.
Your high end for like your 16.
And if you don't need to get to 600 yards, you're like my distance is only out to 400. 13.7 will do absolutely do some good and do good. And somebody commented GPR. Yeah, GPR instead of Red, general purpose rifle.
Yeah, I saw that. I forgot what video I watched, but he did make good points on that, and that's why I've gone and saying like this. Like I don't want to necessarily call it a general purpose rifle, but this is really
that's leaning towards SPR than GPR. But I feel you,
right? Because mine is honestly like I feel like it's a hybrid because I can lay down fire like a DMR, but with the barrel and the optic, you can reach out to 600, 700, 800 yards, right? So, like again, like when they talk about building one dual rifle that can do all, like if you ask me, it will look something like this, but with like a red dot on top for passive aiming, with passive aiming with night vision and close in engagements. And then if someone's 50 yards away with this 3 power, I can easily just go transition straight to the scope and see them.
For me, the reason I went with 16, the only reason I went with 16 over 18 is because of my height. When you start adding that extra length with a suppressor under there, it starts to make these really unwieldy. And Eric's gun is absolutely unwieldy with that long 18-inch barrel. And then he's got the T2.
I feel you. Hey, listen, I'm 5'9". I'm 5'9", so I'm not that much taller than you. And when we go through the woods with this 16-inch and it's suppressed, right? And this 16-inch is suppressed, like I kind of yeah, it's long. It's long. But it's I still like the performance of it. That's why when I was talking to you about should I go 13.7, should I go 14.5? Because again, I'm thinking like we run suppressed all the time as much as we can. So I'm thinking barrel length that's gonna be long enough to reach out to 500 yards and still be short enough, even suppressed, where I can still wield it, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like regardless, I feel like 16 is still a good length for me, even suppressed. Yeah, it's kind of long, but I feel like, it's just one of those, you just live with it and, just be happy. And what's this? My girls is 10.5 a novelty? No, actually, no.
10.5 right there.
Right. I honestly feel like if you're building a AR pistol or AR rifle and its primary purpose is close quarters, then you want a 10.5.
Not go shorter than 10.3 though.
Yeah, don't go shorter than 10.3. You don't need an 8.5, 7.5. Please don't go with those. But yeah, 10.5 has still a lot of merit. Because again, you look at these long engagement rifles. How often are you honestly going to shoot somebody at 500 meters? You're not.
Yeah, that 10.5 is not designed to shoot past 200. I don't have it to shoot past 200 meters. I could do it. I've taken that gun on a regular basis out to 450 and hit it's a 12-inch wide by 20-inch tall. It's like a 3/4 silhouette target. And I can easily connect with that rifle. I've done it multiple times. I got videos of me doing it multiple times. But again, that's designed to be 200 yards in, basically. I mean, really, realistically, it's more like 150 in because PID is going to be an issue. I am going to get a magnifier for this, and it's going to be the more style setup, but essentially, it's not really designed for that. This is actually my night vision gun.
Yeah, that's the thing people got to understand is that when you build a gun for a specific purpose, it's meant for that purpose. Like, don't build a 10.5 meant to cut corners and do CQB and then start complaining that it doesn't have good velocity at 500 meters. It's like it wasn't meant for that.
Let me address this real quick. My 3-girl 4626, the 10.5, it feels underpowered. If you could kind of explain why it is that you feel it's underpowered, and I can kind of explain to you, you got to design the rifle for the specific purpose or the intended purpose that you've got for that weapon. Mm-hmm. So 10.5, so the threshold, the effective lethality threshold for close range to get the tumbling and fragmentation effect of a 55 grain bullet is right at 2,500 feet per second. At 150 yards, I'd have to look and double check, but I think right at 150 yards, the 10.5 drops to that 2,500 foot per second range. At least mine does. Chronographed, I want to say with 55s, I'm right around 2,700 feet per second at the muzzle using a magnetospeed chronograph. That is more than enough to effectively engage a target at distance. So if you have a 10.5, don't feel it's underpowered. It's a great weapon system. But again, you can't expect it to do something that's not designed to. That's like going out and buying a Ferrari or BMW and expecting to go mudding with it. You're not going to do that. It's not designed for that. And just because it can't go mudding doesn't mean it's a shitty car. Same thing with your gun. Just because it's not going to be engaged at safe distance. And yes, it's not going to have as much velocity as a 16. But the thing that you're going to run into with a 16-inch gun versus a 10.5 is once you start suppressing these, side by side, you notice something that 10.5 is shorter with a suppressor than the 16-inch unsuppressed. Once you start getting those longer guns, the suppressor is going to add a lot more length to it. And once you start moving through buildings and stuff with that weapon system with that longer length, you're going to be knocking the end of that barrel on thresholds. You're not going to be able to move as fluid and as freely as you would with the shorter platform. So you've got to set the weapon up in such a way that's going to be advantageous to whatever specific mission that you've got. And you're welcome.
Okay. I like that clan cream. That's these names. But yeah, that's how people really should be wording it when they're building. They want to build that dual. Because I would say clan, just call it a GPR, right? Because unless we are. I know we call them designated marksmen and snipers and all these terms, but for us, if we really look at it, the average civilian needs to have a GPR. Your one rifle should be a GPR because we do not know what we are going to find ourselves in, whether it's
tailored to your AO.
Right, that too. Like that's why general purpose, because it's purposely built for your general purposes, right? But again, we don't know where we're going to be getting into. It could be a protest that's gone left, and now we're in like a Minneapolis situation where there's no police out here, or it can be some type of like Capitol Hill situation, or it can be a racial issue, or it can be the Russians are coming, right? So we don't know exactly what we know kind of what we're preparing for, but we don't know what that thing will be.
And a lot of people, we've been spoiled, especially living in this country, with relative peace. I know Americans have their differences, and I know there's a lot of bickering going back and forth between the left, the right, politics, all this stuff. Personally, I'm not a political person. I don't give a flying fuck about either of them. But one of the big things that you need to understand is peace in human history is a relatively new thing, and that is something that's very fragile and that can be ended very quickly. So that is the whole reasoning and purpose behind the Second Amendment is self-preservation, self-defense, and being able to resist a tyrannical rule or a foreign invasion or tyrannical from a whatever foreign attacker that might be coming this go around. But again, everything could collapse tomorrow. You never know. It's and a lot of people hear that, they say, "Oh, that's you're a conspiracy theorist. You're saying this and that." Absolutely, you have the rights to your opinion, but just the facts are that peace in human history is a relatively new thing.
And peace doesn't usually last too long either.
It doesn't. We've actually had the longest run of peace, relative peace. There's been wars, but we haven't had wars in this country since the Civil War, basically.
Well, I mean, it hasn't been like combat wars. I think that's why people have said that, because they don't see like gunfire wars, but it's been like, mental, political, psychological warfare and stuff. But let's see, General Killer, DMR practicality is a free-floated 20-inch barrel. This boy's trying to slings lead at 3,200 feet per second. He's trying to. General Killer is trying to say, I'm trying to vibe check something.
So that's relevant to your AO. It depends on how far away you are. Do you live in a heavily wooded environment where it looks like you're trying to climb through a bed sheet of vines?
The P&W,
right? Good.
Right. The P&W might do you good up in the mountains up there.
Crawl through some woods, but or are you out in the Midwest? Or are you out in areas where it's relatively clear? You can move relatively freely. Again, that's just going to be a dependent to your environment. I saw somebody else mention something about a 20-inch as well. Whatever the fuck. Nice name, bro. My build addresses everything you guys are talking about. I have a 20-inch barrel and a 5.56, and it's under 30 inches overall length.
That's a long boy.
I got a ruler somewhere around.
I mean, yeah, if you have a 20-inch barrel and a 6-inch suppressor, then yeah, it's gonna be under 30. But
there's more than 10
that's long. That's long. It's still a long gun. I mean, granted, like depending on your AO, like again, like I said, if you're like in like the deserts, like Idaho, Nevada, where the extended distances, a 20-inch, that's what you want. But up in Florida in the woods where we do, probably not. For Smitty, just go with a simple red dot, bro. Red dot magnifier. You won't need anything else really for that.
I got to talk about the 10.5 setup.
Yeah, he said, what's a good site to start with the 10.5? Red dot. If you're really pressed for cash, go with a Holosun 403 C or Fallout 403
Holosun for cheap. Yeah. Don't buy anything other than a Holosun if you're going cheap. Yeah. Other than that, go with an Aimpoint or an EOTech.
Right.
Those two.
So I recommend a Holosun 403 B or Holosun 403 C. C is just a solar power version of the same optic, but that's as minimum as I would go.
Tactical Stone said 14.5 with a 1-to-8 light and sling. I have a hate relationship for 1-to-8s, and that'll be for another video, or LPVOs in general, and that'll be for another video. But if you're going to be adding that much weight onto your gun, with the LPVO, just go with a solid. He's 2 more down from that, Thomas. Just go with a solid MPVO and do an offset red dot if you want that little bit of change. If you want the 1 power to be in the optic specifically, go with a red dot and a magnifier. And we'll do a whole nother topic in a video, and I'll explain my.
We will do a whole video on why, like, my whole viewpoint of LPVOs has changed. And this is why I want to do live like this, because people wouldn't get this information. Like,
it's good red dots.
right? Because a lot of the big name company YouTubers and all that, they're not gonna say that because a lot of these companies give them LPVOs and shit, so they're not gonna talk shit about LPVOs.
Contractor said Sig makes good red dots. I don't like Sig red dots. I've looked through them and they've got more of a tint. And maybe it's just the ones that I've seen. I've looked through a couple. I don't remember.
I've had good luck with the Romeos. The Romeo 5s, I've had good luck with.
But I'm still going to tell people Holliston over any of the other manufacturers. They're just very, very solidly built red dots. If you don't want to go expensive, if you do want to go expensive, go with an aim point. I have one laying somewhere.
But that's the thing. It's not even technically expensive. Well, if you get an aim point pro, it's $450.
Yeah,
right? That's a good optic. I would say
for the price of a JPC.
right. My girls, do we have shit hit the fan rifles? I guess every rifle we have is a shit hit the fan because we only build good stuff.
What I get to first.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why you build good guns. You don't just have. I used to have double-digit guns. I sold all of them for capable guns. Like he said, any gun I pick up is capable. So whether it be this, or my burn, or my my SOCOM, I have good capable guns.
Yeah, shit hit the fan. This is what I would go to, and that's why I'm getting. I need to get a magnifier for it. I've been saying I'm getting one for a while now, and I just have been lazy and not ponied up and purchased one. I probably will by the end of the year because I'm about to rebarrel that. I'm rebarreling my 10.5. I'm getting another trigger. I'm getting a third Geissler trigger for another gun. And then I've got a new mount that I got to get for that, for the light. An inline mount that pushes it a little bit more, doesn't push it as far forward because I don't like my lights being pushed so far forward. But the red dot magnifier combination will be a little bit more magnification if I need it. And the magnifier is QD, so it'll just pop off and I'll shove it in my cargo pocket and then run the red dot. And then if I need a little bit more magnification, I'll just take it out, throw it on with the QD and be able to reach out a little bit. And then a good set of backup irons. I shy people away from the Magpul, the Emps, the plastic ones.
Yeah, go metal for shit hit the fan stuff.
What you want to go for? These are the Emps Pros. They're really low profile and they're incredibly rugged. Good sight. But you want to have a good set of backup iron sights if you're running a red dot, because batteries die. And I hear a lot of people saying, "What about EMPs?" There's not enough of an electrical circuit in red dots for an EMP to infect it or to affect it, unless you are so close to the nuclear blast that there won't be a red dot, a rifle, or you left for that to matter. If you're far enough away from a blast like that, where that's often electromagnetic force, it's not going to really do much because there's not enough circuitry to actually fry them. And that's information coming from a buddy of mine. It's going to sound cheesy, but he legitimately is one of the engineers for NASA.
All right, so got my irons, my backup. Aimpoint Pro, good dual optic. If you want one, buy one's cryo, one's optic, but you don't want to pay a lot of money. $450 is a good price. Clam Hershey's 20-inch with a 1:8. Like I said, when we do this, I know I don't schedule when I go live. For who said King? Yes, guys. When I go live, from now on, again, we're just testing out. The live I did yesterday was just to test out to see if I can go live on YouTube on my channel. And so today's live is to see how would it be if I brought other people on the live. And so we're again just doing little testings. But yes, I will start scheduling, putting out little posts of when we do our lives. Because the next live we do is what do you want to do? You want to do plate carriers? You want to do short guns? Or
you could do a picture or something with a just do like a poll on like a picture you post for your YouTube and just poll what everybody wants and we'll work off of that. But I want to get with this. My girl's 4626. Another good question. Hey, what do you guys use for or think of a PSA cold hammer forged barrel? So I have mixed thoughts on PSA. Their cold hammer forged barrels are made by FN. PSA claims that it's not FN barrels made to PSA specs. They're made to FN specs. But it's the surrounding parts around a PSA you want to worry about. And you hear the term thrown around just as good. You got the snobs, you got the pores and everything that are running around all over the place on the internet. I personally hate divulging into that. If your rifle is in spec, an in spec PSA and again, an in-spec PSA, meaning everything is right on that lower receiver, is going to perform just fine. It's going to do everything that you need to do. Now, whenever you start working into getting into SPRs and precision rigs, I like doing thermal fit receivers for my SPRs because where that barrel mates up into that receiver, you'll have a little bit of slop in there. And every time that thing fires, it might shift just a little bit. So a thermal fit receiver is going to be a lot more of a rock solid fit. So for that reason, for especially a precision rifle, I would shy away from PSA receivers personally. Your results may vary. I have seen PSAs that shoot good. I have seen PSAs that shoot bad, but you are rolling the dice with getting a good quality rifle with Palm SA Armory. You want to do your homework, do your legwork. If you are not somebody that knows how to check and make sure parts are inspected, you don't have the tools to do it, and you have somebody that can do it for you, get it checked, and everything checks out on it, hell, go for it. School of the American Rifleman on YouTube is a really good channel for you guys to look at, and he goes over everything that you need to look for in a rifle. He will actually teach you what to look for, and he actually sells those tools that he uses in that, and you can actually use the gauge and spec out your rifles to make sure everything's what it's supposed to be. But again, you need to do legwork, and you need to make sure that you're getting parts that are in spec with those companies, because they do batch testing with their quality control, and that's where you get a lot of the quality control issues. Thomas actually just recently got a PSA rifle that was not quality controlled, and the front sight gas block was clocked. It happens. I've gotten PSA parts. I don't buy PSA anymore because I've gotten so many that were messed up, and I was just like, you know what, I'm done with it. I started buying Aero. Now Aero has been having problems lately, but from what I've heard, that was COVID related because they're having to push out so many products and they just couldn't keep up. But now things have died down and the quality control has done a little bit better. And yes, you too could suck it. Tactically stoned. You are absolutely right, my friend.
So,
bunch of comments that have come out since then. Let me see what we got going through here.
yeah, I'm all the way down the bottom. Some people asking questions. I'm not gonna answer every question because I'm trying to get. I don't want to go too far off. The primary purpose is like talking about DMR and SPR rifles. I see a lot of questions about shorties, but like I said, I'll put up a poll. Make sure you follow the. I'll put it down.
So murder phase. Tactically stoned. If you pay attention to the Ukraine conflict, Ukrainians are primarily getting their wigs split. That's happening on both sides. That's war. They're actually doing a really good job against the Russians, though. I was surprised. I was actually kind of I didn't expect much, and I was still let down with the Russian military. I thought they'd be better than what they are based on all that hype.
It's funny. I can go over to myself. I can put myself in timeout and block myself. That's funny.
Nice. You've been a bad boy.
Yeah, I don't deserve to be here. All right, to be honest, a good AR-10. AR-10, don't get me wrong, they are good rifles. It's just, if you look at, again, you got to look at your AO. If the majority of the people in your AO have 308, then yeah, AR-10 probably be your thing. But most people in America have AR-15, so 5.56, 223.
You can also carry a lot more ammo.
That too. Yeah, exactly, that too. So no, if you look at these titles, you got to break down these titles. It's not all just one word. When you say DMR, SPR, GPR, for a DMR or a GPR, an AR-10 probably wouldn't be that good. But for an SPR, probably so. Because again, remember, DMR, you got to lay down cover fire and bounding drills and clear buildings and shit, right? Because you're still an infantryman. You're just infantryman who can shoot better than a little bit than everybody else. And the general purpose rifle, that means like any and everything you can really kind of find yourself in. So again, do you really want to clear houses with an AR-10, a 16-inch AR-10?
They're a lot more finicky than a 5.56.
Right. And so, but for an SPR, like I said, SPR, if I'm looking to start my work from 500 meters and out with a 16-inch AR-10, then definitely that would be a good choice.
But it just depends on how much you want to carry that ammo.
That too, the ammo and that weight,
and the gun's a lot heavier too. I mean, you got to think about you got to
make sure
you guys to
when you're building these guns, you got to make sure you can carry what you build, or you buy?
Yeah, I would encourage you guys to throw 50 pounds in a rucksack.
Oh
And
God, yeah.
if your area allows it, or you get like a national forest or something like that, where you're able to actually openly carry a weapon, I wouldn't do it in the streets. That's kind of a dumb move. That's asking for to get waxed by cops. But throw it on and go for rucks with all that stuff. And then if you're fine with that AR-10, I mean, you'll find out about 5-10 miles in this, you're like, man, I don't want this heavy gun no more. I want to get something different, because it takes a toll on you. And I mean, you could be in great shape, but it don't matter. You still start moving like that. You're going to want the lighter weapon. You're going to want the lighter ammunition, especially once you actually start getting into engagements with it. Do you think 5.56 DMR effectiveness is coming to an end due to the increase in body armor being available? Body armor is going to stop everything, even up to a 300 Win Mag. So that's not really relevant. You're just going to need to have something that's accurate enough to engage. You're going to need to be taking pelvic shots or head shots, or whatever available real estate that you've got to actually engage. But level 4 armor is going to stop pretty much every one of those things at distance. And if you get 200 yards,
5.56 for DMR effectiveness is coming to an end.
Yeah, that's what I was just reading.
I don't see it coming to an end, because again, I see it being more prevalent, because everyone's wearing body armor. You know what's more important? Shot placement.
Yeah, that's what I was just talking about, Thomas. That's what I was just commenting on. But that being said, 300 yards with this rifle, I can hit you in the face. I mean, we were shooting 4-inch plates not too long ago with this guy, and then today I was shooting I don't think I actually engaged it today because it was behind the hill a little bit, and not quite sure what was going on. But that being said, with match ammunition and this rifle at 300 yards, I hold about a 1.5-inch group with that rifle. So I can stick it right there on your head, and I'm gonna hit in that area generally if I do my part.
Exactly. So 5.56. Listen, 5.56 is a very, very accurate round. So if you're accurate, you can hold a lot of it and be like recoil. I don't see it really going out anytime soon. And answer Mojo, unless you are yourself proficient in the art of reconnaissance, it's not a recce. It's a general purpose gun or a DMR, especially if it's a 14.5. It can be a DMR or a GPR. But as far as recce, us civilians, we got to stop using that recce term. Just call it general purpose. Just, hey, listen, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna get into. I'm just planning for all kind of stuff. The most likely event. Jonathan
Stone replied, if shot placement is key, 17 HMR can do the same thing. Not at 300 yards. You're not going to be doing very much 300 yards with a 17 HMR. Not for what a 5.56 is designed to do.
But again, I would just want to say, go find me some 17 HMR in the typical American house. You go in the average gun owner's house, you're going to find 9 mil, 5.56, 223, 308. Most people, exactly. Majority of people is not walking around with 17 HMR.
Yeah, and I mean, his whole and I don't want you to think we're picking on you or we're trying to be assholes about it, but body armor is irrelevant no matter what caliber you're shooting, or no matter what caliber you're shooting is irrelevant with body armor, because body armor is going to stop everything that'll fit the AR-10 platform. 6.5 Creedmoor, 308, 6mm Creedmoor, and I think 243 can be fit in one. Modern body armor is going to stop every one of those rounds. But you're going to be able to carry more 5.56 versus a 308. Now, if you're having to shoot longer distance, again, depending on your AO, if you're in the Midwest, a 308 or a 6.5 Creedmoor might be a little bit better.
He said, I'm just giving y'all something to talk about.
Appreciate it, man. It's a good topic. It is something that is on a lot of people's minds.
But yeah, it is low-key good because, again, guys, if you're building something for a shit hit the fan GPR like bug out, again, you guys are just giving us topic after topic. We're gonna have a lot of lives. You're gonna want something that's interchangeable with out there. So if you get a 17 HMR, are you really going to be able to find that ammo at your neighbor's house, across the street, in the next neighborhood? Right? Like, parts. Everyone has an AR. Again, when we do another video, when you build an AR, don't build a super special AR. Build one that's low-key mil-spec as fuck, that any mil-spec part you find can kind of swap out with it.
I spoke to a gentleman. It was this is a comment that he had left on a thread in a Facebook post talking about the Ukrainian conflict. And he was actually a Western volunteer. He was an Army medic. He's not in the Army anymore, but he was an Army medic whenever there was fighting. And he was saying that their unit was firing in excess each of 1,000 to 1,500 rounds a day in firefights. And that's kind of a commonplace thing, especially early on in the conflict. This was early on in the conflict, like he was there within the first couple of weeks of actual fighting taking place. And parts are going to break. Bolts are going to break. Firing pins are going to break. Retractors are going to break. The trigger spring on your Geissele trigger can break. One of the things you're going to want to look at whenever you're setting one of these rifles up is, am I going to be able to scavenge and find parts for this rifle in the event that something breaks? Always carry a spare. You want to have a grip with a trap door in it. That way you're going to be able to have spare parts in that grip. I usually carry a spare extractor, a spare ejector, a spare firing pin, and I don't normally carry a spare bolt in there. Probably should, but it's kind of a little bit cramped for space as far as that concerned. But those parts are going to be your main wear parts, and gas rings. You want to carry gas rings as well. But in the event that you've used that part out, hard use gas rings, if you were to take and shoot 1,500 rounds in a day, you're going to wear your gas rings out in that gun, and you're going to want to be able to easily pick up and replace them. And there's a lot more 5.56s laying around than there are 308s.
Right. I don't want to get too off topic, but yeah, that's fine. Especially if you do like armed security like I do, then yeah, if you have a Glock, then you definitely will have a PCC that takes Glock mags. So if something happens to either one of those platforms, you can still use that same ammunition magazines. But we're closing in on 2 hours. So, guys have been listening for a while, so we're going to hop off soon. No, I
want to hit this up. Probably we could make this last question for Gentle Killer. Under 100 meters, you get hit with a 175 grain round in the chest. Even with armor, you're going down. No, you're not. I know I have buddies that have been shot at that close, within 100 meters with Dragunov actually, and he just had a bruised rib. So with level 4 body armor, the movies have kind of made misconceptions about how people react with body armor. Now, if you've got soft armor on, somebody smacks you with a 9mm, yeah, you're going to feel that shit. But hard armor actually does a really good job dissipating energy. It's good armor, hard armor does. So if you've got a good set of plates, you're going to be okay even within 100 meters getting shot with 175 grain 308. It's not going to put you down. It's not going to break ribs. You might experience a little bit of bruising later on, but when he got hit, he knew he was hit, and he said it was a light thump in his chest. It didn't really do too much, and it hit him on the edge of the plate. He was a dog handler and stepped out to clear a room or clear from a room and caught that chunk of lead right on the edge, about that far from the edge of the plate.
All right. Definitely King. I'm definitely vibing with how you guys enjoy the information we're given. It's definitely no bullshit hour when it comes to us, man. You're not. That's why I feel like a lot of you, other people, they're so entwined in the industry that they can and can't say certain things. But us over here, we can really be honest as we want, talk about what we want, and that's what I like.
Paradigm and a shift too in the gunning community as of late, and it's been really
shit.
good.
Thank you, Big Ant.
It has been the shift has been more away from the hunting aspect of the Second Amendment and more towards actually what it was meant for. And a lot of politicians are starting to label people as domestic extremists because we're like, we are willing to fight tyranny if it comes down to it with these weapon systems. And that is what the original intent of the Second Amendment was for, is self-preservation against a tyrannical government. And they know that, and they fear that, and
they don't want that to happen, basically, yeah. All right.
I'm not saying go out and do an Oklahoma bombing and kill innocent people. The Second Amendment is a last resort. We want things to be able to be done legislatively, but we don't want we want to have the option to where if they start coming to your door and they're going to be like, no, you're doing this or else, to be able to resist that kind of tyranny, because human beings should never be a slave to another man. that's not a thing. And it's, I know in the past it has been, but it's the Second Amendment is designed to keep us from being subjects and instead being citizens.
Thanks. Big Ant, thank you for the donation, bro. Definitely, I would go Mark 12. If you already got an 11.5, I would definitely go Mark 12. So now you kind of have at least both those covered. So if something happened, you can carry 2 weapons, right? You have that Mark 12 attached to a backpack, or go get an Eberly stock backpack.
Just carry the receiver.
That there you go too. Take the upper receiver, take the upper receiver, put it in the backpack, and then walk around with that 11.5 when you get position where you can set up that Mark 12 or SPR. Because again, its purpose is to reach out and touch someone, and that 11.5 is your close-in gun. Once you get that position, you swap uppers, lay down fire at distance, swap uppers, and you out. Or like again, it still can be used for that purpose. Like if you put on your Mark 12 upper and you got an exfil now, then that Mark 12 is still an AR-15. It's still going to lay down rounds and everything. It just might not be the most efficient, but it's a 5.56, whether from a 7.5, 10.5, 18 inch, is going to put your head down. So I want to harp on that. And thank you again for your donation. Thoughts on Ruger precision rifles? I don't have much knowledge.
I don't have much experience in them. Just I do know guys that run them and they shoot pretty good.
Yeah.
But I don't have any experience in them personally.
So he got his suppressor out of jail. Freedom's always nice. All right, so we're at the 2-hour mark. So we're gonna go ahead and sign out here, Keith. I want to thank you and non-existent Eric for hopping on the live. We're gonna do more. We're definitely gonna do more lives like this, man. We could almost honestly do this 2, 3, 4 times a week, you know, because we got a lot of things we could talk about when it comes to guns. And,
yeah.
And eventually we can even have like how we had you guys in the chat. You know, if you guys want to hop on, we'll have little segments where it can be like, you know, drink with short bus. You know, we'll have like our beers or whiskey, whatnot on hand. You kind of just talk to us, ask us questions, exactly, and kind of get to know the guys. So again, I want to thank you guys. You've been here for 2 hours. It's been fun. I've had like between 19 to 40 something people I've seen. So I think it's been a good class. So again, guys, thank you for watching. We're definitely going to have Short Bus back. We're definitely going to have more info. I'm going to have other people. I'm going to have North Florida Tactical. So guys, if you're looking for medical training from a medical expert, we're going to have him on here. I'm going to have Zach Cloudwalker on here. If you have questions about armed security in the security world, we're going to have him on there. So I'm going to have a lot of people on here. So this channel's really going to take off. So if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe bell notification. Keith, thank you for joining me, man. I'm going to have you back. And yeah, guys, stay educated, stay armed, stay dangerous. LocsNLoad out.